Good morning, everyone. In this video, we're going to take a look at the Zifnu Rocket Kit and actually assemble one of them to give you an idea of how everything goes together. So what you'll receive in the box is two part sheets that make up the Launchpad and the rocket itself, the instruction guide, hardware for mounting the PCB into the actual kit once assembled, LED lenses, and the remote control. The part sheets themselves are 2.7mm bamboo, and it comes unfinished in just the natural wood. It has a light sanding done to it already, so they're pretty smooth. You do not have to finish it prior to assembling the rocket. You don't have to finish it at all, I should say. But adding a finish to it, whether it's a simple rub-on poly, a linseed oil, or anything else, is going to reduce the chances of getting any slivers from it and also provide a richer finish. For an example, I have two here that are already finished, and this is the one we'll be assembling today. Is the pre-finished one. You can see the difference in the quality of the finish. Has a nice sheen to it. It just gives it a richer feel. So we'll need a few things to assemble a kit. Number one is a knife to actually remove the parts from the part sheets. Technically, you don't have to do that. The way it's set up, you can actually just bend these back and forth and they'll break right out. You get a much cleaner edge if you use a knife though, so I'm going to show you that method. You'll need some glue. In my choice, I'm going to use super glue. Whatever glue you choose, make sure it is something like a gel-based glue or something with thicker wood glue, for instance, just so it doesn't just soak into the wood and then not provide a good bonding surface. Personally, I've had very good success with the Gorilla Super Glue Gel for these kits and other ones as well. The applicator on this one is a little large for what we're going to need. So we're going to use the toothpicks here to actually apply the glue to the joints. I'll just move this over here. All right, so to get started, we'll just take one of these here for the moment. Take your knife on the joints. Let's see if I can get a good shot of this. You see the little connection points? So right there, all you're going to do is take the knife, press down halfway through the wood. Just kind of wiggle it a little bit, get a good cut into there, and then flip it over, do the same thing on the back side. Just take your time, there we go. So as you press down on the back side, you'll hear a little pop. And that is basically the piece popping out. And there we go. If you need to, you can clean those up with a little bit of sandpaper or the knife edge. In this case, it's fine on that edge. So basically just repeat the process on the next parts. Okay, we're ready to assemble the Launchpad base, which is the first step. A few things to note is the front and rear of the Launchpad. So the rear has the 3 extra holes there for the mounting of the upright when we get to that step. The piece in the back is one with the cord loop and the actual Zifnu text. The Zifnu logo and the hole for the receiver should go on the front, and the two side pieces are interchangeable. So if you're doing this by yourself, I find the easiest way to do it is to take a piece of painter's tape, masking tape, or similar, and start by taping the one side in. This will be clear in a second. This one doesn't have to be 100% perfect yet. Right. Throw the back on. All right. So we're going to work our way around the Launchpad in this fashion. So we got the side on, got the back on. This also allows you to test fit all the pieces, make sure everything fits the way you want it to. Alright, so that gives you the box nice and tight to make sure everything fits the way it should. This allows you to glue the front piece on and make sure it stays perfectly square in the way it should be. Alright, so we'll start with that. Just put a little drop of glue down there on the post-it. Doesn't take a whole lot of this glue since it's super glue. And we're going to reinforce it on the inside afterwards anyways. And you want to do just the top to start with. Place it flat, hold the piece in place for 15 seconds to dry. Now obviously if you're using standard wood glue or a different type of glue that takes longer to dry, you want to secure this either with clamps or tape and let it dry for whatever period is required for the adhesive you're using. Alright, so super glue's pretty quick. And once again, you want to use the gel version of the super glue. If you have the standard, it'll just soak into the wood and your bond will not be very strong. So once you get the first piece on, give it 30 seconds to dry decent enough so we can pull off the tape for one of the side pieces. Simply like that. Pop the side piece out, and we're going to do the same thing. The only difference is this time we're going to put glue into the joints on the front piece that we glued in place already. All right, there we go. There is the Launchpad base. All right, so I've let this set up for a minute just to make sure all the joints are nice and secure. So now, if you want to make sure this base really stays together, I mean it's pretty secure with the super glue, but an extra layer of adhesive you can add is either wood glue, even standard Elmer's glue, and just put a bead into the corners, either directly or with a brush, and just let it dry overnight. Or, depending on what glue you have, it might just be a couple hours. I'm not going to do that at this point, so we can actually just move forward, and I'll do that at a later time. So for now, the base is assembled, we're going to just set it aside and actually work on the rocket. So the first thing to do is to arrange your rings from 1 to 10 for the pieces you'll be installing. You want to take one of the rings, and of course, as I was mentioned before, this goes from 1 down to 10 at the very bottom. Just give you an idea there. So, the way to do this, let's grab some more glue here. Alright, so just put a dab of glue into the joint. I usually assemble these so it's one number to the left, or sorry, one cog to the left of the number, just so you can check it later. And you just want to press this back so that it's nice and, so we can get that focus, nice and straight as opposed to this edge. And actually, if you keep pressure just back like this, because the joints at the back of the rib and the back of the ring are flat, it should stay nice and flush and get a nice 90-degree angle on it for you. And if you look the other way, make sure it's square that way as well. All right. So once again, you just hold that for 15 seconds. Then we move on to the second one. Now, as I was mentioned before, it doesn't take much glue. As you go down, they get a little bit easier. You can actually put pressure from the inside of the ring to the back. And just take a quick look at it to make sure that it's aligned the way you want. And make sure it's square that way as well as that way. One way to tell is if you put the fin, both points, onto the ground, those should be nice and lateral, basically 90 degrees to the actual rise. All right, so once again, just keep moving down the rings. Second. After you do the first two, you'll get the gist of it and it'll go much quicker. Once again, just hold for 15 seconds to let that set up. All right. Just adjusting those as I go. And they are pretty straight. On the camera, the angle is a little weird, but. And they don't have to be exactly perfect, just get as good as you can. When we add the other pieces in, it'll actually pull it into place, as long as it's not way off. All right. Once again, just pressure between the 2 points. Just kind of make sure it's within reason. All right, sorry if I was quiet there for a second, just making sure these are all aligned. All right. So the first section here, the first rib they're putting all the rings on, is actually the most difficult. From there, it actually gets much easier. And this is really not that difficult if you just take your time. This is ring 7 going on. And as you're doing it, just continue to look at the other ones to make sure they haven't moved out of place, or if you need to make any adjustments to their positioning, you want to do so before the glue cures 100%. Now, bamboo being a natural wood product, it can warp a little bit. Really not a big deal. As we put all the rings into place, put all the actual uprights into place, everything kind of syncs up and holds it nice and true. Same is true with the base that we just assembled. So if you do have a little bit of warping in the pieces, don't worry about it. It's quite okay. it's number 8. When you get down towards the fins, it's a little more difficult. I find if you just hold it like that, and with the other hand, just make sure that everything is lined up the way you want it, and just keep pushing straight back on the ring into the fin. And we'll just let that set for another 15 seconds. All right, and we're gonna need just a little bit more glue over here. Continuing the process. Ring number 9. Once again, just press in as so, and also make sure to align the ring so it's as true as possible. That one I think we'll need to re-glue. All right, that one's gonna need our spotted glue. So, not a big deal. You can always go back, add a little bit more. Camera to focus there. And every once in a while you're going down, just make sure the rings above have not shifted. Everything's lined up still. Get a shot of that. Alright, on to number 10 and the final ring. Alright, let's let that set for a second. Alright, I'm going to set this aside for a minute just so that everything's set up, and then we'll continue on with the next rib. Okay, we've let this set for about 5 minutes. All the pieces are now nice and rigid. Very little play. So we're ready to move on to the next rib, which will be one of the standard ones without a fin. Now to start at the bottom, slip into the notch on the ring. Should work your way up to the top here. Alright, so it actually slips right in on this one. As we add more ribs, the trick is to do the second one and hold this out a little bit, and then it'll snap into place. But I'll show you that when we get to it. For now, you just want to go back and make sure these rings stay in place while it sets. Easiest way at the moment is just to squeeze. Alright, that is the second rib in place. We're going to do another finless rib on the other side of the fin there. Basically it alternates between the ribs with the fins and the ribs without fins, so every other one. So once again, just start at the bottom, slip in the notches into the notches in the rings, And just work the way from the bottom all the way up to the top. And just make sure to apply pressure to all these just to make sure they stayed in place while it sets. Alright, there's the second rib in place. Gonna let this set up for a minute and then we'll be back to install the next fin. It's set for a few minutes. The new ribs are in place nice and securely. We're going to move forward to install the second rib of a fin on it. This is where you're going to need the base. So we'll kind of set this down here so we have it, and I'll show you why in a minute. Number one, we'll just get some glue into the notches on the next piece. Same thing as before. You want to start at the bottom. Just work your way up, pressing all the joints together. So you get up to towards the top after their first few. It fits in easier if you kind of just put a little pressure here, so you're rotating this way, and then it just slides right in, and just go back and make sure the rest are all in place, 100%. All right, so now, before it sets, you want to take the corner of the base, take the fins, put them securely onto the table. So basically you're using the Launchpad base as a square at this point. And we'll just hold that for 15 to 20 seconds to let it set up. Now that the second fin has set up for a few minutes, and we can double check it to make sure it's still square. Perfectly is, so we're fine there. Ready to move on to the next two ribs. Actually, the next rib, sorry. Right on the other side of the fin we just installed. Alright, gonna set this aside for a moment. Alright, for the engine, all you really need is a small drop of glue in the very bottom of that notch. Slide them together. And just let it set up for 15 seconds while you're holding a square. Set it aside. Nose cone is the same thing. All right, so completed nose cone, completed engine. Went for the smooth side version, you can do either. Let's go ahead and slide that in now. There it goes. So just needed a little bit of light sanding. And that is actually snug enough to just leave it that way. Don't have to glue it. If you have kids around or worry about losing the pieces, you can glue it in place. Just test fit it first and then apply the super glue. I'm actually going to leave that out for now. The same thing might go for the engine piece. Basically, it'll fit snugly into the bottom ring. If it's too tight, just sand down the little ribs a little bit. So just lightly sand each of the edges and then test fit it again. And there it goes. There is the engine installed. I guess we'll throw the nose cone back in for now. All right, moving on to the next step. We need to finish the base, and that piece is the upright. So sometimes these are a little bowed. Usually if you have it that way, put the concave surface towards the actual upright support. And when you glue it together, it'll keep the piece nice and straight. Line up the piece. And we're simply going to keep pressure on this for 15 to 20 seconds. And you just want to keep that at a right angle as well. And that goes on the front, whereas the support goes onto the rear of the upright. Once again, just holding that for 15 to 20 seconds till it's set. Alright, so next we'll install the electronics into the base. And we're going to start with the base itself. The 4 longer screws are 12mm M3s. And 4 of the M3 nuts. Alright, so 12mm screw goes through the top. Put your finger on it. On the back side you have the screw there, you can see. Take one of the nuts, and it's easier to do it from the front, but go ahead and thread that on. And once you get it started, you can do it by finger, but it's actually easier if you have a small Phillips. All you're going to do is tighten that down until it's snug. And then give it another quarter turn. You don't want to over tighten these nylon screws. And repeat that. So now you should have the 4 screws installed from the top going in to the base, and have the nuts on all 4 12mm screws, and have the extra bit just ready to receive the board. So now for the board, we have 4 lenses. First thing you want to do is take the infrared receiver on the front and just kind of bend it down gently, not too far, just a little bit out of the way. Hold the board so that the infrared receiver is facing you. Have the base so that the front with the hole for the infrared receiver is also facing you. Take each of the lenses and put them into place, and you'll notice there's guide holes for each one and little, if I get that to focus, little pedges on the bottom of the lens to align. So just align all the lenses in place. And while you're holding the board, simply take the actual launch pad with the screws and place it over, and have the screws line up with the 4 corner holes. And just do it gently. There we go. Make sure they're all nice and snug. Make sure the lenses, they should be able to just move just a tiny bit. If they're stuck, just wiggle them a bit and they'll realign with the holes. Turn it over, hold the pad and the board together. Take your hex, M3 hex 20mm standoffs. Take those and screw those in from the bottom. Just finger tight, snug is enough. If one loosens up, you can tighten it from the top with the Phillips. There we go. I just didn't snug down up enough. There we go, all 4 standoffs in place. Now, take 4 of the 5mm M3s, and you'll install one of these on the bottom of each hex standoff. And here we have the assembled Launchpad base, lenses in place, as well as the RGB LED Development Board. The remaining step is to install the upright. The way you want to do this is take your rocket, align it on the base so it's right where you want it. You'll put glue into the notches, the riser. We'll put it into the notch and we'll just lean it forward so it just touches the rocket, just barely. All right. So here we have the completed rocket and the completed Launchpad base. Of course, works perfectly. So in the next video, we'll talk about the RGB LED Development Board in detail, tell you just what it's capable of.